gentlemen, we're back! Welcome to another fine edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, and calm, collected, professional journalist, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man not quite as calm, certainly not very professional. I present to you my own personal D-make, the BRENT.
See, I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to get the low-hanging fruit.
That's right.
How can a man of your height pick fruit so low?
Listen, I squat a lot. That's
it.
why. So, if you joined us 2 weeks ago, we spun the wheel. We made the incredible deal. And Brett, this week, oh boy, was I excited about this one. We're going to be looking at, bam, Demakes Gaming Devolved. That's right, Britt. The fun-filled world of Demakes. Now, explain to the people out there who aren't in the loop, what is a Demake?
Anytime you have a piece of popular software, people want to play it on older and older systems. At least there's a group of people that want to do this. So you will see people take popular titles or not so popular titles and put them on systems they were never meant to be on. This usually means going from 3D to 2D graphics, or from 64-bit to 8-bit sort of affair.
Yeah,
and it's a fun little subgenre of gaming. Some are so good that they surpass what anyone would have thought was possible for the system or for the game itself. I had to look at a few of them this week that I was like, man, this is too good to be considered a demake. This is just a remake in a different style. I think part of a demake is the game has to fit the era that it was made in, and a lot of these people were just making stuff that was incredible.
Well, when this rolled up on the wheel, I think I voiced my displeasure because I'm familiar enough with demakes to not be interested in them. And I was not looking forward to this. However, I will say there has been some exciting work in this area, and some games that have been, like you mentioned, ported to systems that would never have had the original game appear.
Usually because the original game didn't exist.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. There's no physical way you could actually find out, get it to work on there. Now, with all that said, I struggled mightily. And I know you did too, to find a game to play this week. I'm going to go over a couple of the ones that I looked at that I ultimately vetoed. The first one I looked at was called Super Smash Land. Super Smash Land, when I first saw it, I was like, wait a minute, Super Smash Brothers on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Now, this might be kind of cool. I like what they did there. Well, no. It's in the Game Boy style on the PC. And I thought, even though this does look pretty good. By the way, I hate Super Smash Brothers too. That didn't help. But I thought this looks pretty good, but I can hear the voice of the BRENT echoing in my head, no, bad. Well, so I was like, okay.
And I think that is, personally, I don't see that as a demake.
Yeah.
I think that is just remaking a game in a different style.
Yeah. Then I looked at, I'd heard about this one from back in the day, Halo on the Atari 2600, Halo.
Yeah, same deal.
Now, again, I'm not the biggest Halo fan either. So I thought to myself, well, heck, let's have a look at this Halo on the 2600. What are the odds? Well, it doesn't look that great to me. I'll be honest with you. I was just like, eh. I mean, it just looked like something I'd want to play. It might be super awesome. I don't know, but it didn't do it for me. So I didn't pick that one either. And ultimately, after just milling around, I went through a bunch of stuff. And when you think about D-Make, stuff like Tiny Galaga, Tiny Space Bears on the Amiga, you could put in that category. Stuff like that, where they sort of kind of ported them over, but it's in black and white or whatever. But I wanted to try to my goal was to find a D-Make that I wanted to play. I mean, that I was excited to play.
Right.
And I did find one, but it took a lot of digging. So much digging.
You definitely sort of found one.
It took me seriously, this is a shoot. It took me an extra day of searching to find the game I was going to play. Normally, I've got it earlier than Wednesday, but this week it took a long time.
Well, let me tell you about the D-Make I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I searched literally 8 straight hours trying to find this particular D-Make. I enlisted the help of the internet. The internet put forth a valiant effort, but was unable. We found the story. We found the story of how this D-Make happened.
Yeah.
But they were unable to find the actual piece of software. City of Heroes D-Make.
Oh.
It was a City of Heroes game for the Atari 2600.
No kidding.
Now, what
I've never
this
heard of that.
was, now this I will try to be brief, but this is a story worth telling. Aaron, do you remember back in the day when we played City of Heroes on the Virtue server, right? There was a man named Ascension, and that name might not ring a bell, but some of his antics almost certainly did. He was the guy that would stand at the payphones at different parts of the city, and he would have this huge script written like he was talking to his business partner or his lawyer or other heroes, and you could only hear his side of the conversation, but it was hilarious.
No, I never heard of this
Oh
guy.
my gosh, hilarious. He made his own, because Virtue for the City Heroes was the closest thing to a role-playing server there was, and it was very vague. But he really took it to the next level, so much so that he produced his own brand of cereal, right? Ascensionos. And it was to kind of play off the power-up system, the enhancement system of the game. And one of his things, at least this is theorized where this Demake came from. One of his things was he got in bed with a video game manufacturer who said, "Listen, we're gonna make a video game about you, and it's gonna be the best thing ever, right?" And he played it up in the forums, and he played it up in the game, because this dude was a big deal. I'm sorry you hadn't heard of him, but he was actually a big deal. And the beta of this game was leaked, and it turned out it was a Demake Atari 2600 port of City of Heroes. It was fantastic in its horribleness.
So was it a real game in real life?
Yes, it was a real thing you could pick up and play, and I played it. I played it back. This was back in 2007 or 2008.
Yeah.
And it got a little bit of traction, but it didn't get nearly as much.
Was it an
traction.
actual game?
Yes.
I mean,
what did I
did you
say?
But I thought it sounded like maybe it was an amusing, wacky demo.
No, you could physically load this up and play it.
Yeah. What did you do in it?
It was you had 4 power slots at the bottom, right? And it was a flip screen style game where you ran your little guy across, and the customization was like you could change colors of the guy or whatever. And you would fight people, and you could pick up power-ups like I-beams, flight.
Yeah.
And I remember that you held up on the controller and hit the button, and that's how you cycled through your powers, and then you used the button, because it was a one-button game, to use the powers. And it was just, you went through, you fought some enemies, and then you saved someone at the end, and you brought her back to the first screen, and that was the game. It was just a simple little thing. But it was awesome because it captured the spirit of City of Heroes, which I think is very important. Unfortunately, Ascension passed away.
Oh, geez.
From an illness a couple years later. He's actually honored in some of the or some of the private servers that are out there, because he was such a big deal. He was a really incredible character. But we could not find that, so I had to go a different route. But it shows you it was a demake in the spirit of the game, and that's going to be important later on. Keep that in mind.
By the way, if you're listening to this, if you know where to get this game, contact your boy.
Oh my gosh, if you actually could find this. I don't know the name of it. It was in the style of Atari 2600 graphics, but it wasn't actually ran on the Atari 2600. It ran off of a Shock or a Java.
That would explain
that sort of thing.
That's where I was confused.
But yeah.
Sounds good.
If you happen to know where that is, please find me, because many people are looking for it now.
With all that said,
yes,
it was our job to try to find something to play on this Demake episode.
Yes.
And so I'll lead the dance this week with my choice. So, again, I struggled mightily.
I've heard that.
And I came across this game. Don't ask me how. But I was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. This sounds like something I may be interested in. And it was. And the game I ended up choosing was Mirror's Edge 2D. 2D, Brent. Now, you'll recall we covered Mirror's Edge long ago. I can't
Yes.
even recall what the episode was. It was a 360 episode or something. We covered Mirror's Edge long ago, which is a real interesting sort of a free-running game where you with a kind of a dystopian future where you play a lady who's like basically almost like a messenger, an information broker in the future. It's a real, a cutting-edge game at the time, and was underappreciated in its day. It was followed up by a lackluster sequel, and then it's sort of fallen off the earth. You don't hear much about Mirror's Edge anymore. What was that? What was it? Female protagonist?
Yeah, it was episode 187 for anyone who wants to go look back.
So, with all that said, I thought, I loved Mirror's Edge, as Brent did too.
I loved it a lot more than you did.
And so, you don't know how much I love something. I've got buckets of love, tons of it. I'm giving it out.
I have the Mirror's Edge messenger bag from the collector's edition. Still, my son has tried to take it several times, and I've told him no.
You still can't measure someone's love by the mere presence of a bag.
That's
anyway,
odd. I feel like I did.
So this is the weird thing about this. Mirror's Edge was released by EA, as you know, and EA actually had a hand in Mirror's Edge 2D. This is sort of like they were on board. They helped get this thing out there. If you can believe it, I was stunned to hear that. So how do you play this? Well, this is a Flash game. So this is and you can still find this to play if you look around. I found several different versions to play, which we'll get into. But it's still around, despite the fact that Flash has sort of gone bye-bye.
Yeah.
But this was a Flash game released for browsers in 2009. That was stunning to me, just because of how old that is. And developed by this outfit called Bourne Games. The programmer, gameplay, level design, all done by a guy named Brad Bourne. Now, I didn't know much about Brad Bourne. I still don't, but there was one thing Brad Bourne was Brad Bourne with an E, like the Bourne Identity. One thing he was known for was this set of games called the Fancy Pants Adventures.
Yes.
Now, I was not a big Flash game guy back in the day, right? However, apparently Fancy Pants Adventures, the adventures were a big deal in Flash. In fact, some people said these were the ultimate Flash games. Were you familiar with these Fancy Pants Adventures?
I know of them, yes.
He also worked on a game called Nefarious and a game called Shift 3. I think these were all Flash games. This guy was like a Flash guy. In fact, I saw an article where he mentioned like they were lamenting the death of Flash, effectively. So, because you've got to think, if you're someone that was a Flash programmer, it was a real big deal when they got rid of Flash.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, when we know why they did it. This had a few assets from the actual Mirror's Edge in it, including the digitized sort of grunts and groans of the lead character.
Okay, yeah.
There were a few guys that helped out on this thing. The background art was from Mike Swain and Mike Casto, the character animation from Mike Miller. And there's a cinematic at the very end that was put together by Tommy Levi Marinos. So this wasn't a one-man show, but it was close. So what is Mirror's Edge 2D? Well, if you're familiar with Mirror's Edge 3D, guess what? Newsflash, Mirror's Edge was in 3D. And so what makes this game interesting is this is the same sort of gameplay style, but it's shot from the side, as if it was a 2D, like multi-scrolling side, like jumping and platforming game.
It's a 2D runner.
It's funny because when Mirror's Edge was out, the brand, and you know this, people that had trouble with that game often mentioned how that game was not, that the 3D gameplay was, the gameplay elements of the game were not custom made for 3D, and which they weren't wrong. But I mean, I thought they pulled it off great. But some people, especially when the concept was announced, they weren't buying it because it seemed like it would be really tough to do in 3D, and it was. It was done well, but I mean, it was no easy feat.
Well, it was first-person perspective. That was very unique.
It was gutsy. This one from the 2D captures a lot of the spirit of the game. Now, there's not what I would call a riveting storyline behind this. When you start the level, you're sort of confronted with some text, but basically, it's kind of giving you the idea of what to do in the game. it's funny how many of the moves from the original game sort of make it over to this 2D version.
Yeah.
So the first there are several levels to this game. The first level is like on sort of like the original game. It's on rooftops.
Yeah, your classic city.
And where you're running through. Now, what you're collecting, basically, as far as I can tell, are like clues or like evidence. As you go through the game, there are these little like red shapes that you run over and collect, and your goal is to collect all these on the level. Now, you can play this game a couple different ways. It's a lot like the original. The original game, you could play to solve the adventure and get to the game, but a lot of people just played the speed running portions of it. And this game has a speed running, or had, I don't know if they're still around, but they had a speed running community built up around it. So you could run through this game as fast as you can to try to get the fastest time to go through the game. I found complete playthroughs of this game that just ran through it without collecting any of the stuff, and they would get through it in like 5 minutes or some really low number. I mean, they could go. But if you actually go in there and try to collect all the evidence and stuff, this game is no easy task, and it's not something you're going to do in like 10 minutes either.
It's deep.
It's pretty deep. So what can you do? Well, you can obviously jump, run. You can swing from pipes. You can swing from these like rings that are hanging around. There are zip cords you can run down. You can literally take a couple steps up a wall. You can jump back and forth between walls to gain height. You can slide under stuff. I mean, you can slide down stuff. They've really captured a lot of, and it's all basically done with your cursor keys and a button. I mean, effectively.
Button, yeah, it's a one button deal.
And it's amazing to me. And I didn't mention, you could also run sideways across walls, which is cool.
Some walls. And they're much like in the other game, you can sort of tell the ones you can do it on. They do a good job of letting you know what's happening here. The first level is pretty much, you just run around the city. There's not anyone after you. On later levels, you get into positions where, much like in the original game, you're trying to avoid the gaze of guards. You try to get through without getting hit. And then you eventually, you go in, there's hidden areas. You're dropping down through skylights and running through buildings, which is something else you used to do in the old game. So believe it or not, in a game like this, that's 2D, you're going through buildings and they're not even cut away. I mean, there'll be a window in there, but it doesn't like hollow the building. It's it's actually pretty well done, isn't it, the Brent? Well, I will go over my experience with the game at the end, because we had a slightly different experience.
Yeah, so when I put this up on the Discord after I found it, and I was like, here you go, guys. And what I linked up in the Discord was the beta, which I found out. Well, I didn't know, because I was trying to find a way somebody could play it. And so the beta was just the first level, and that was it.
Incomplete first
and it
level.
wasn't even all there, yeah. And so I had to go back and find the real thing to play. I actually downloaded this. That's not the way to do this. You can play this. We'll link it up to a full version you can play in a browser, so you don't have to go through the rigmarole that I had to go through. And the first level is it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as feature packed as some of the other levels have. The levels including going down underground and going down to city level, and it's very interesting the way they've got it set up. But the main thrust of the game is, how would a game like Mirror's Edge work in 2D? And I thought it worked pretty well. Now, much like Mirror's Edge, this is a game that you're going to have to kind of get in bed with. You're going to spend some time working on the moves. But I had to spend quite a bit of time. For example, running up walls, straight up walls. It's not the easiest thing to do, because while you're jumping, you have to hold up. And then once you hit up, you only get a couple steps. So you've got to master that. And you have to master that one early. And then you have to master jumping back and forth between building ledges. Stuff like grabbing hold of pipes, stuff, they sort of do that automatically, so it's not as tough, but there's a learning curve there. Just like sliding under stuff, there's a timing to it that you have to adapt to.
Yeah.
To run across ribbons or across the wall, you have to, there's a timing. It's exact, they captured the original game, the feel, quite a bit, I thought, in the way that works, and I was pleased to see that. Overall, to be honest with you, I was surprised how much I enjoyed this. Really, I didn't even plan on picking this one right away, but after I played it the first time, I was like, yeah, this has got to be the one because this is actually fun, and it actually sort of also answers some questions that I had in my head when I played Mirror's Edge. Like, I wonder how this would work as a traditional platformer, and I guess the answer is it works well. Now, with all that said, this is a Adobe Flash game, and so the pitfalls and limitations of Flash are in play here. This is not what I would call the best looking game. It looks okay, but it's not. It looks like a Flash game. It looks like a pretty good Flash game. They got the motion down pretty well, but again, this could be done even something like a TurboGrafx could probably do a decent job at a game like this. I think it could if they wanted to. What do you think the minimum requirements to make a game like this better?
Super Nintendo.
Okay, that's fine. Super Nintendo could do it. I would agree with that. And I think this would work well in that area. I think certainly something like the Amiga could have a decent shot at it. Yeah. I think it could. Or the Genesis. But this is a Flash game, so I don't want you to think to yourself, my God, this is going to be a graphical tour de force, or the animation is going to be fluid.
The animation is fluid.
It's fluid, but it's still, the frame rate and stuff is flashy. That's what I'm saying. It just looks, it has that look that Flash gives you, is my point. So there's that aspect to it. Again, it's not the longest game. If you're speed running, you can run through this thing quick. If you're not, if you're doing like me and just trying to get through, it's going to take you a while. Let's put it that way. Just getting all the stuff on the first level, like there's stuff everywhere. And this isn't the kind of game that if you want to get all the stuff that you can just run through, you're backtracking, you're going way back, way up to places you didn't know you could go. There's all kinds of secret areas. There are areas that require you to jump at a different spot than you normally would to get off the slide, to get to different areas that you didn't know were there. So it's going to take a lot of scouting, looking around. But I found it a very enjoyable game. I was pleasantly surprised by this, Brent. What did you think?
Yeah, well, first things first. I only played the beta of this game.
Oh, you didn't try the other ones?
No, because Aaron stated in the Discord that the game has an ending because someone asked.
It does. And I watched the video,
and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna play through this, and I played through it. And on the beta, you get to where you would transition to the next level, and it just brings you back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So I went in completely blind. I didn't look at videos first or anything. I thought, okay, maybe I have to collect everything before it's going to let me go on. So I collected everything. Still, same thing, just warped me back to the beginning. I was like, okay, maybe, because I know Mirror's Edge had that speed running element, maybe I need to get through this level as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So I was running it, and I was running it at about 78 seconds.
Wow.
I was like, okay, I know I can get this lower, because obviously the game's not letting me go on. Let's see. I think I can get this in under a minute. So I did. I beat the beta level. I had it under a minute.
Wow.
And it still didn't let me move on. That's great
for the first week of play. That's real good.
So I eventually called Aaron. I was like, okay, what the heck's going on? How do you beat this? And you're like, it's like, there's an ending. It's like, you just, like all 3 levels. I'm like, 3 levels? What are you talking about? There's 1 level. That's when we discovered I was playing the beta and he was messing with the real thing.
I will say, just to chime in, when I found this game and I put it on Discord so everybody could play it, I did not know what I had found was just the beta.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And I just got lucky and ended up going and getting the actual game. Otherwise, because I thought, I'm going to keep this around. Otherwise, I'd have been boned. So yes, that's my bad. That's my bad.
What does the beta offer? And I did at least watch videos of some of the other things once I realized it existed. This is, first of all, this is professionally done.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. You can tell that if nothing else, this had EA's team directing the flow.
And they took the best guy in Flash to do it.
Right.
Say that.
And because of that, you have the most important parts of Mirror's Edge well represented. You have the speed. You have the fluent animations. You can chain moves together to where it feels really good. You have the collecting element, which is the little symbols. There's usually like 200 per board. And those are kind of like more, those are less, oh, you've got to collect all these to be cool. And those are more, here's sort of a pathway you can go. It kind of hints things that you might not think you can do that you can do. And then you've got the messenger bags, which was actually part of the full game. And for the full release, you also have folders, which that's your intel type stuff.
Yeah.
The messenger bags, just like in the full game, are hidden. You might see one hanging around, but you have to figure out how to get to it.
Yes.
And it's a fun, puzzly aspect to figure it out. But at its core, what makes this fun, especially if you enjoy the original Mirror's Edge, is the running aspect of it. The levels are well thought out. Now, they don't make sense. You've got pipes hanging from magical ropes, and it only gets worse the farther you get into the game. But for a level layout, it's good. The transitions and stuff, the skills, the transitions between skills, between having to time a precise long jump, to slide under something, to start wall jumping back and forth to get height, to get to the next set. It's all there, and it's all on beautiful display. It was a joy. The whole reason why I didn't mind Aaron screwing me was otherwise I would have not played the beta to the extent that I did, and I wouldn't have gotten to enjoy the learning the speed running routes the way that I did. And I know I can go faster.
I will say under a minute. That's pretty impressive for that level.
Here's the thing. It also the full version goes the extra mile to have runner's vision, which means to mark important jumps or skylights you can go down in red, which is a nice touch because they had that in the original game.
Yeah.
Is this a demake? Absolutely. This is a professional demake.
Yay.
However, you've taken a console game and put it on a computer. And that's something that needs to be, I mean, yes, I know this also came out on PC.
I was going to say.
But this is real close to just being a remake. In fact,
it's not a remake. Don't give me that.
You could argue that this was a remake.
If you're
not
dumb,
a remake.
How could you get that?
But they had the elements there. They had the feel, the flow, and they recreated it in something that it wasn't. And I guess you could say you couldn't do the original Mirror's Edge in Flash.
That's right. Flash is a platform.
And I guess if you really...
Are you going to argue that's such a little...
If you really bend it, that gets you there.
Are you nuts?
But here's the important thing. This was fun to play. You can sit down and spend an hour with the beta and do everything. Or you can spend 10 minutes with the beta and get your fill.
Yeah.
It really depends on how much you want to commit to it.
Had you heard of this before I found it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Rats.
Because this came out the same... This was used as advertisement.
Had you
for
played
Mirror's Edge? Yes.
Okay. Well, with all
No,
that...
I had not played this.
I
No,
think
sorry.
this one, I'd never heard of it or played it, and I love Mirror's Edge. I'm going to say it. I think this is your hidden gem. I love this game. I think it's fun.
No, it's not that
Oh,
good.
yeah. I think it's great.
Oh, it is great.
And I think it's a hidden gem. I don't think people know about this because of Flash and because it's so old. I never knew about it, and I loved Mirror's Edge. So there you go.
This was pushed around the same time as the game.
Well, if you're a Mirror's Edge fan or a Freerunner fan or just want to try something that's different, because there's not that many. There's a Freerunner game on the Dreamcast I played that was 2D like this. but there aren't that many games like this.
Yeah, there's not a ton, but they're out there.
And I don't think there are many that are done as well.
And with the advent of the cell phone, there are now hundreds of these things. But this is done better, arguably better than most of the other runner games out there.
There you go. I'll take that as a win. Let me see if we got any Discord on this, because I forgot to bring the old Discord up, Brent, because that's what I do.
I do believe we did get some Discord.
I think we did. So let me zoom in here.
And I do believe they had about the same problem as I did.
We did get some reviews. Thank you, everybody. So let's start off with Pajako6502, who writes, the console Mirror's Edge is fantastic and was sadly massively underrated when it came out. So much so that due to poor sales, EA canned the J2ME version before it was completed. And Mirror's Edge 2D, if memory serves correctly, is not a million miles off the J2ME. I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that before.
Good tip. It feels a little clunky at first, but once you loop around the map a couple of times, everything becomes second nature and reflex starts to kick in. I found a couple of the last items a bit tricky to find, and the first bag was actually a real so-and-so to get. I managed to collect all the items, but didn't seem to be able to complete the game, but it's still fun and very playable. Yeah, that's on me, Pajako. The only thing I found that broke the flow a little was that sometimes the sprite collision with swing hooks was a bit hit and miss, but other than that, this is a solid game, and for free, it's even better. This would easily work on a 16-bit and maybe even some 8-bit systems, and I really feel that something like this needs to be made into a full game. It's great and free, and you have no excuse not to play it. There you go, Brent. So that's what I brought to the table. What did you bring around this week?
I brought without a doubt, you can't deny it, Demake.
You can't deny mine's a Demake either. Stop trying to play that card.
And I chose Super 3D Portal 6 for the Atari 2600.
Yeah, you did.
This took the game of Portal, Valve's little blessing of Portal puzzle gameplay, and someone said, you know what? I need to be able to play that on the Atari 2600, and they made it happen. This was designed, I don't have his actual name, but his board name on the forums is Hinchy.
Hinchy, yeah.
And he is responsible for getting this done. This is, Aaron, a feature-packed port of Portal.
All right.
You have 2 Portal gameplay, because 1 Portal gameplay wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. That would be kind of a quick game.
You have a 8-way aiming feature.
Yeah.
You have jumping and platforming.
Yeah.
Intentional glitches, when you put that as part of your game description.
It's a feature.
And 2D, despite the name being Super 3D Portal 6. This was actually made, they were running a contest of Demakes, and this was part of that contest. So this was something that was made in a hurry. It wasn't one of the 48-hour type game jams, but it was close. This has a few claims to fame. Claim to fame number 1. This is an Atari ROM. You can load this up on an Atari emulator, or if you could find a way to get it onto a cartridge.
Harmony card, no problem.
And play this on actual hardware. So that's thing number 1. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thing number 2. This uses 2 Atari controllers.
Yeah, that was much like Lobsterminator mentioned, and I skipped right over that in your description. So for the longest time, I couldn't do anything. I was baffled.
And the way that the controls work is joystick 1 moves you left and right, jumps, and fires the red portal. Joystick 2 aims. And your guy in this is an arrow. They went all out on the animation on this. It's literally an arrow pointing one of the 8 directions. So the other joystick, all it does is rotates where that arrow is pointing, and to allow and shoots the other portal. You step into one portal, you come out the other portal. This game has 6 stages of varying quality, and you have to use your portals to successfully navigate to a dot located somewhere on the map rather elsewhere from where you start. This got a surprising amount of buzz, okay, when it came out. It had many magazine articles about it. It has tons of speed runs on different categories.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, I don't want to say unearned buzz, because they did something, and the something did do something, but the game is incredibly basic from a port to portal, a portal port.
Yeah.
This does it have 2 portals that when you walk through, you maintain your momentum. Well, not really momentum, but you maintain your, I guess it is momentum. When you walk in one portal, you come out the other portal going the same direction as you came in.
At the same speed.
But no, it's not really
Well, I mean,
the same speed.
No, I'm talking about that's what in the game. That's the original game.
Right. So it kind of emulates that. The author talked about how that was more difficult than they were planning to do. And actually, this game has had many revisions throughout the year. So depending on which one you get, that will actually be improved along the way. The main problem with this, Aaron, now, is this a portal game?
It has portals in it.
It has portals in it. That's right.
So yes.
No. Because Portal, the game, is so much more than what is elemented here. I think this has the bones of something wonderful. I think this has the very basic gameplay of something that is stellar. What I don't think it has, though, is I don't think it has the spirit of the game. It doesn't have the complexity of level design, and it doesn't have the feel of the original Porter game. And I think that is incredibly important to a demake. You don't have to get everything right, but you have to at least get the feel of the game that you're demaking. And I don't think this does it. I think that if the boards were more complex, and not complex is the wrong word.
Puzzly.
It needs to be more puzzly.
Yeah.
Because there are some levels that you don't even need the portal.
Yeah.
And that is outlandishly confusing to me. The reason why he mentions that there are intentional glitches is because Portal, the actual Valve-made Portal, is a glitchy mess, and speedrunners use those glitches all the time to do amazing things. And the author wanted to at least harness that. So from a speedrunning perspective, this is probably a lot more like Portal than how most people play Portal. But for me, lacking the puzzle element, or at least the precision portal placement, I think that's important. And for most of the levels, I don't think that was on display here. What do you think?
Well, just a few things. When I was coming up with the video to show during the show here, you were talking about the speed runs. There's tons of people that did speed runs on this, and they're so short that I couldn't even use. They're like less than a minute. They're like they're ultra short, going through the entire game. So and the thing is, are you going to beat this in less than a minute? Probably not. But are you going to beat it in less than 5 minutes? Oh yeah,
probably.
You want any trouble once you understand you use
the
two
controllers. Yeah.
I mean, listen, you could not have released this on the 2600 back in the day in its current state. However, if you'd added a bunch more levels or a random element or something, then you absolutely probably could have released it.
Yeah.
Because it's not, listen, we had virtual tic-tac-toe and virtual Rubik's Cube.
The elements of a good game are here.
Yeah. So you could actually, this is something that, given more jack, you could have released this like as an Atari game. As it stands now, I mean, listen, I'm sure there were Atari games released that were worse than this, But I mean, I would have been let down.
Yeah.
With all that said, it's an interesting concept. You know, the Portal concept on the 2600. I'm not going to fault the guy, especially if they threw it together quick. And the fact that speedrunners have been blowing this thing away, it does amuse me. Much like my game. It's funny that we ended up picking 2 games that have a speedrunning community behind them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how much quicker they could do this in the speedrunning community. I don't know how you could cut, because I mean, I'm sure there's a ceiling here. There's not as much room for creativity on this game.
They glitched the heck out of it.
Yeah.
The video, if you're watching it at home, is the compilation of beating it without glitches, beating it with with just portal glitches, and then out of bounds glitches. And the speedruns just get increasingly faster and
because
faster.
I guess there's a way you could put the portal like in certain spots on the board, and your arrow will end up in the solid area, and it gets kind of shoved out.
Yeah, and that's how the original game was.
And so you can kind of cheat like that. So, is this a demake? Yeah. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, really, of the 2 games we played today, this is less of a demake than what I made, because this is nothing. This has 0 to do with Portal, like you mentioned. Except for the fact that you are making portals.
Yeah.
So, but you could call it Portal, but you could have called this Maze Teleporter. You could have called this You could have called this Nightcrawler's Nightmare. You could have called it anything that involved teleporting or portals. But it's got 0 to do with the original game Portal. And so, as a demake, I have to say that this is questionable. But I'm not gonna hold your feet to the fire like you would if it was me that put this forward. Because it's just like saying the Halo for 2600. Is that a remake of the original Halo? Well, no, it's not. It's a whole other thing. We both can agree on that. We both tried that one. But with all that, it's just like we could also say Doom on the TI calculator. Is that Doom? Kinda.
Well, here's the thing. The farther you go back in technology, the more wiggle room you have to allow it to be considered a demake. Because you can't have voices of GLaDOS in the 2600.
No.
You can't have the animations of going through the portal, sticking halfway through on the 2600. That's just not going to happen. So this demade as well as it could for the technology it was demaking too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you go.
Now, Aaron, I want to bring up something to you.
Yeah.
All right. First of all, like I said, this had tons of reviews.
Yeah.
This had tons of mentions in gaming sites all throughout 2008. But I found one website. Oh, please load. Please don't mess with me. It's called the Rogue Gamer Online Player.jp, right?
All right, Japanese.
A Japanese website that not only mentions Super 3D Portal 6, but in the same article mentions Mirror Edge 2D.
There you go.
As they talk about demakes for different games that are out there. What are the odds? Because we don't collaborate on this crap.
Also, we don't speak Japanese.
Well, I translated the article, obviously. But it is completely, we picked 2 completely random independent games.
Yeah.
And this article from back in 2008 or 2009 just happens to mention both of these games in the description of what a demake is, and it goes into incredible depth about what a demake is and how it fits with these 2 games. So I think we did a good job.
That's pretty whack. Before we move off this, I want to give a special shout out to our buddies over at Pixel Gaiden Podcast. If it wasn't for them, I don't think I know anything about demakes, because they talk about them on there all the time. And also, they are celebrating the Brent, their 100th episode this month, the month of February here. In fact, they've had part 1 and part 2 will be coming out just in a few. It'll be almost the same day that this comes out. So, big shout out, thumbs up to Sanction and Eric and Cody over at the Pixel Gaiden podcast, and congratulations on your 100 episodes.
Absolutely.
Now, with all that said, Brent, we love success. We love to celebrate success. And we love to celebrate successful people doing successful things. And there's no better example of that than, you know what. Bam, it's our buddy Retro Rewind. RetroRewind.ca, the friendly confines of Canada, Brent. Canada or Canada, depending on where you're from. And if you're looking for some sweet action in the Commodore arena of computers, then look no further than RetroRewind.ca for all your diagnostic and repair needs, for upgrades, including SD solutions, and if you're looking for Coco SD solutions as well, the beloved Radio Shack color computer, you can do no better than RetroRewind.ca. If you're one of those people that needs a repair, you know, I was just talking to my buddy Huck down in Australia, down New Zealand, and he came across a Coco 3 down there. He's like, man, should I buy this thing? This thing was going for hundreds of bucks. That's because stuff like the old Color Computer 3, some of the more rare C64s, the Amigos, those things ain't cheap anymore, brother. They're fetching a big wad. You don't want to take a chance on those things going south on you. It's time to get those things repaired. It's time to get the caps replaced. There's one man to turn to, and it's Frank. He does it in-house. Folk called it the white glove treatment. I like that because that's how it works. You've got repairmen in there with literally decades and decades of experience. Taking care of your business, please check out our friend Frank and his staff at RetroRewind.ca. They'll take care of your business.
Absolutely.
Now, what do we got this week to Brent?
Aaron, to the wheel, we have added. You
always forget, don't you? And you hit the stall until you find out.
Mitsuyama suggestion.
Oh, man. All right.
Brent chooses both games.
You what? Mitsuyama, you freak. You screwed me again. We better not get that one.
And for the Retro Rewind, we have the Auric.
Oh, okay. We love the Auric. I thought we played Doggy on there, didn't we, as I recall? All right, fire that thing up. Look at that. A mighty spin. And with the new lighting, you can actually see what the wheel says. That's nice. What'd you get?
We have Dancing Games.
Dancing Games!
Suggested by Chris Folds.
Christopher Folds. You
Yes.
crazy maniac. You've done it again. So next week, we'll be dancing. We'll be prancing. There won't be no romancing because we're playing Dancing Games. Now, what are the rules in this? Do we have to dance, or does dancing just have to be in the game?
I think, no, dancing has to be the core element of the game.
Okay.
And we can't both choose Space Channel 5.
Yeah, because we already covered it. So we're boned on that one. Hey, listen, just a little bit of house cleaning before we go. We want to thank everyone that participated in Amigathon last Saturday as we record this. It was actually 2 Saturdays ago now. Amigathon 2023. I'd call it a big success, Brent. We raised a lot of money for the Children's Miracle Network. If you didn't get a chance to stop in and drop a few bucks on this thing,
there's still time.
You're still good to go. In fact, till the end of the year, you can get in on it. We've raised $38,000. We've raised $3,830 for Children's Miracle. Hey, that's a hefty sum.
Yep.
And so, if you want to kick in a few bucks when you get a chance, feel free to hop in there and give it a whirl. Also, I want to talk about BAM. It's coming up, Brent. It's Boat Fest. It's Boat Fest, everybody. Coming in June 23rd to 25th. All retro gaming enthusiasts, historians, luminaries will descend, drawn like at the end of Highlander. They're all going to come down, and they're going to descend on Hurricane, West Virginia.
I was thinking more like bugs to a zapper.
Well, same thing. I mean, they all get killed anyway it goes. It's going to be great, though. No one's going to be killed at this, except joy will be unleashed. Your joy killing is the only thing going to be killed. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have computers and video games. I mean, some pretty rare, weird stuff.
Like Aaron.
Like me will be there. You're going to have some of people you've heard about, podcasters.
Like Aaron.
Like me. Our good buddy, the Flaxter, will be there. We got a lot of people coming in that are in the chat right now. It should be a lot of fun.
Aaron.
We got people coming in from Canada. We got people coming in from UK. We got people coming in from Australia, Brent. All the way from down under.
That's an incredible
It's going to be awesome. We got people coming from Ohio as well.
Well, you know,
so we got that going for us. It should be a lot of fun. So please check your calendars. Tickets are limited.
Oh gosh, Fire Marshal Limited, the mayor of Hurricane, our hometown,
Yeah.
will be at the event for at least some portion of it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we don't have to be on our best behavior, but we can't break fire code.
You know what I really like about, if I may for a moment, what I think I liked about Boat Fest. We cover a lot of Amiga, me and Boat, right? You like
Yes.
Amiga? There'll be Amiga stuff there.
Oh, well.
Do you like,
I'll still come.
we cover some ZX Spectrum, right?
Oh, yeah,
There'll be some ZX Spectrum
I like
stuff
that,
there.
yeah.
You like Atari stuff? We got some
Yeah,
Atari
pretty good.
stuff there. We got some Illuminaries from the Atari scene going to be there.
Ooh.
Wait a minute, are you a console guy?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to bring some consoles, some weird consoles, man. You like 4-player Jaguar? We're going to have it.
Oh.
Do you like arcade stuff? We do.
Ah.
And we cover all kinds of weird crap. This is a big blob of joy. We're not just going to cover one system. This is all the systems, a big ton of them. They're all going to be represented here, including some real rare stuff. So
And
it should
it's
be a lot of
held in
fun.
a pub.
It's held in a pub. Enough said. So please, mark your calendar. Boat Fest, June 23rd through 25th. Brent.
Yes.
Anything going on in the Brent world that you want to talk about?
Yes, I will actually be on This Week in Retro. We were recording tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it.
You snuck in the back door on this one, didn't you, Brent? The Brent hitting the mainstream. Please don't bring your own special brand of joy killing and negativity to that fine show. That's I'm sure Dave Velociraptor won't allow you to get out of control on This Week in Retro. I think that's all we got, Brent. We'll be back next week for dancing games. I'm sort of scared of this one. Until then, dance your way through the week, brother. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. A special thank you to Death and Styles for our vector style graphics and BarkBit for our amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARG Presents, just like these fine folks. Dryrlent 17, Laron Garut, Templar Mar, Z9K9, Jerry Dennington, John Dykeman, Retroalgy, Air Shack, Texas Foosballer, Sundown, O Wrong, Super Tech Boy, David Terrence, Mr. B, Roushi, Graham, W. Vetke,
Chris Munch,
Dave Velociraptor, Bernhardt Lucas, Steve Rasmussen, Anthony Jarvis, Bitterblitter, Pajako 6502, Kevin Bean, Andy Jones, Andy Craig, Rob Black O'Hara, Jason Warnes, Mitsuyama, Chris Foles, Frodo NL, The Slow
Richard Smith,
Terry Howard, Olaf Hope, and Rolo. They all have access to our Discord channel, their name called out in the credits, and visualized in the ending scene. Have an idea for a wheel piece? You can send it to us at argpresents@mail.com.